Warpokes, I asked for lore and you guys deliver on that. This is WiseFish, and this is Mass Effect's First Contact War. Now, I had said in the video where I was checking out WiseFish's Races of the Citadel, I said I wanted to know about humanity's first contact. Sorry, coughing. I'm a big timeline guy. I like to know where things came from, how they got to where they are. One of my favorite things about Battletech was actually learning about the timeline and watching several timeline videos bring me up to speed, at least till the third Secession War at this point. I know what happens, the clans eventually come in, but I'm getting ready to watch the third Secession War. Sven Vander Plank, my guy, much love to you. Whenever you get it done, I'll be right there with it. Mass Effect's First Contact War, this is from WiseFish, and guys, yes, I am ready for this. So, we know that the first contact with humanity and the other races of the Citadel was an absolute disaster. I want to see how much of a disaster it went to. All of WiseFish's links are in the description down below. Please check him out. Guys, thank you so much for watching with me. Let's get right into it. Let's go. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, all that jazz. Let's go.
During the events of Mass Effect, humanity proved themselves to be a fierce and noble species as they teamed up with countless different races throughout the Milky Way galaxy to hit back at corrupt agents, exploitative forces, slavers, as well as one of the biggest threats within the galaxy, the Reapers. During their journey, alliances were formed, friends were made, and the Citadel was a beaming light into what civilization would look like if they all teamed up to fight a common foe. Races from all different walks of life, all different appearances, and all different beliefs came together here to discuss politics, as well as trade, socialize, and plan war efforts. The galaxy came together as one unifying force, kind of like a space UN, ultimately fighting for their survival. But things weren't always like this, and still to this date, all of the races of the Citadel do not favor one another. Humanity, for example, was one of the main races that did not go down well when they first appeared on the scene, and led to some races absolutely despising them, never trusting their ultimate goals. Throughout the beginning of humanity's travel into the wider galaxy, they would go on to encounter the Turian forces, a deadly warrior race that would take offense to their presence and kick off what was known as humanity's First Contact War. So in this video, I want to look back at the origins of humanity and their journey into the far-reaching systems, what caused them to get involved within this war, and what was the eventual outcome of this war. It's
always good when you have a character that has a scar over their eye. They're usually the bad guy, unless they're Zukov in Death of Stalin, then they're the good guy.
The story of humanity's First Contact War.
Let's go. Spooky music, I like it.
It is the 22nd century, 2148 to be precise, and humanity isn't far off what it is today. Science is reaching new limits, new technology is pushing our race forward, and space travel is still high on our list of goals. After being able to create a rocket powerful enough to send astronauts all the way to Mars and back, humanity launched their first mission to step foot on the Red Planet. Here they discovered an ancient civilization's ruins, one that would be labeled as the Protheans. Within these ruins, humanity discovered some ancient writings that detailed a device out near Pluto. Unable to fully decipher what this device was, humanity returned to Earth and started planning their journey to Pluto to discover whatever the Protheans were talking about. In 2149, humanity ventured into the stars again and made their way to Pluto. It was here where they made a huge discovery. For years, humanity had believed that Pluto was orbited by the moon known as Charon. However, getting closer to Pluto itself with the knowledge of supposed Prothean technology out there in the solar system, humanity came to realize that Charon wasn't a moon at all. It was in fact an enormous piece of ancient technology which was known as a mass relay. Stunned by this discovery and this incredible piece of technology that would completely change the course of human history, humanity was wary of what it led to and what its purpose was. Here they sent through a few probes to see what was on the other side of the Charon relay. However, after sending these probes through, humanity quickly lost all contact with them, and there was still no way for them to see see what was on the other side. Realizing that the probes just weren't cut out for this task, the scientists realized the only way to truly know what was going on the other side of the relay was to send through a team of brave men and women, risking their lives to see what the Charon relay was leading to. Eventually, a team was set up, led by the incredibly brave John Grissom, and their journey into the mass relay had begun.
Grissom. I like the reference.
The team went through expecting the worst, but their journey was a success. They had reached the Arcturus system, a system comprising 3 unique planets, an asteroid belt, as well as a Type K1.5 red giant star. The team had safely made it through and had travelled 36 light years from Earth, one of the largest technological jumps humanity had ever made. With this discovery, Grissom and his team ventured back through the nearest mass relay within the Arcturus system and headed back to humanity to tell them of this discovery.
Yay!
Humanity had officially discovered the means of faster than light travel. They were able to see what else was out there in this wide, expansive universe and could possibly find planets in which they could inhabit. Because of this huge venture into the depths of the unknown through this ancient, mysterious piece of technology, John Grissom became the face of the system's alliance. Humanity could now thrive with this brand new technology and could embrace intergalactic travel.
One second, guys. Sorry, guys. The wife sent a couple of texts. She was basically checking to see what was going on. Here we go.
He had officially entered a new age of unparalleled travel.
Hooray! And here's where it goes wrong.
Now humanity was able to travel to different parts of the Milky Way galaxy with ease, utilizing this, what was believed to be Prothean technology. Humanity started discovering habitable planets in each of the systems and began setting up small colonies on each planet. In fact, humanity did not stop colonizing planets and would go on to take over them as soon as they realized they were habitable. But this caused a problem. What humanity didn't seem to realize was their mass expansion was drawing the attention of other species. Humanity, however, had no idea that there were in fact other races out within the Milky Way system. That, or they just chose to ignore their presence and continued to colonize every planet they came across.
Now see, this is part of... So far, this reminds me of one of my favorite answers to the Fermi paradox, which is the dark forest hypothesis, which basically says that we shouldn't be transmitting out right now. We shouldn't be doing all this other kind of stuff because we could attract the attention of something very, very not good for us to run into. And it sounds like this is what they were going for with the Turians in and of themselves. That even though the Turians, eventually things went okay, the Turians were sitting there looking at them like, okay, know your role, slow your roll, and let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. But yeah, let's go.
At first, nothing was done about humanity's continual taking of planets, as most of them were closer to the Sol system. However, as humanity continued further into the Milky Way utilizing the relays, they would discover an inactive relay named Relay 314. However, this relay was different and was heavily protected. You see, Relay 314 was one of the keystones of a huge war that the other races within the Citadel had been involved with, way before humanity had even discovered the Charon relay. This war was called the Rachni Wars. During this event, a few Citadel Council explorers were to open this relay and travel into an unexplored area of the system. Unknowing of what was there, they would discover the species known as the Rachni, a hive mind race of bug-like creatures who were far more intellectual than your regular bugs. The Solarian team who ventured through to this system were immediately captured by this race and were experimented on, which helped the Rachni to discover Element Zero, which they would then go on to reverse engineer faster than light drives to their starships. With this new technology, the Rachni would then venture back into sea space and attack all the races they encountered. The Citadel tried to negotiate with the Rachni, but could never get any real contact back from their queens, who were still on their homeworld protected by the rest of the Rachni. Rachni. The Rachni almost destroyed the races of the Citadel as their numbers were way too vast, and their hive mind allowed them to be thrown into fire without care for their overall survival. It wasn't until the Solarians quote-unquote helped the race known as the Krogans escape from their hostile planet, and would in turn ask them for help with their war with the Rachni. Eventually the Krogans were able to defeat the Rachni queens within their lairs, and the Citadel's military was able to take back sea space once again. The Rachni were labelled as extinct, however that was never truly confirmed, and the Citadel decided to seal off that part of the system and keep a listening post near their planet to make sure the Rachni didn't strike them back. The Citadel then made a law stating that any inactive mass relays could not be reactivated, for if they were, it could lead to another Rachni war. But next time, they may not be as lucky. Returning back to humanity's travel through the new systems, a group of colonies discovered the inactive Relay 314, unaware of the Rachni war, and tried to activate it once again. However, this would not sit well with the Turian race, who were patrolling the system. Immediately, the Turian commander opened fire on all of the human ships, trying to activate the relay, destroying all but one ship.
That is kind of dumb. That is really kind of dumb. So instead of just being like, hey, hi, new kids on the block, how are you doing? Don't activate that. There might be some space gribblies on the other side that might want to devour all of us, so just leave it alone. Instead of doing that, you shoot them. That sounds like a very, very stellar good idea.
Humanity instantly saw this as an act of war, but were thrown completely off guard at the fact that this was their first encounter with another species. Believing the enemy race to be the ancient Protheans, humanity hit back immediately, sending forward all their available warships towards the Turian patrol area. They were so fast to hit back, in fact, that word had not even travelled back to the Arcturus station about this monumental yet not ideal discovery. Whilst the Turian forces were investigating the debris of the ships they had just destroyed, they were unexpectedly attacked by humanity's counter forces, and because of how quick the humans were in their retaliation, all of the Turian patrol ships were quickly destroyed. Humanity now was officially at war once again, but this time against a foe they had only just met and had no idea of who they really were, believing them to be the ancient race who helped guide them to discovering the mass relays in the first place. But this first encounter would have extremely negative views for humanity going forward.
Yeah. I wonder why it would have a negative, outlet going forward. Like, your first contact with us was blowing us out of the stars, and with no explanation. I wonder why.
As the war was in its infancy, the Turian hierarchy commanders saw this attack on their police force as one of the biggest crimes and continued to pursue a military response to prevent further alien attacks.
You started it. Calm down.
Humanity continued to hit back and sent in probes to Turian space. However, these probes were armed with nuclear fusion warheads to make sure the Turians could never capture human technology and use it against them. But humanity were struggling. Because of their venture into deep space, their resources were spread thin, and they were suffering to bring in any resources, especially with their enemy watching their every movement. The Turians hit them hard, wiping out a lot of their scout and patrol fleets. But humanity didn't give up, and actually showed their true force as well as their bravery, most notably with the soldier known as Thaddeus Ahern. Ahern and his squad were sent to retrieve a data module, but were ambushed by a dozen Turian soldiers. Their team was not large enough to take them on, and they only had 2 turrets to help them out when defending. But amazingly, through their incredible skills and will to want to survive, Ahern and his squad managed to survive the fight and took out countless Turians in the process, before being evacuated out of there. Humanity was showing their true strength against this military race that they still believed to be the Protheans, but the Turians weren't giving up. Here they broke through and invaded the human colony known as Shang-Chi. the closest colony to the mass relay. The Turians conducted an orbital siege, enabling them to be the dominant force and put them in the superior position, meaning they were able to kill all human soldiers from above. Humanity just couldn't fight back against them because their position was compromised. The human defenders were also unable to bring in any resources because of the Turian fleet, and began to starve. This eventually led to General Williams, Ashley Williams' father, to surrender the Shang-Chi garrison. He could not allow the civilians on the planet to suffer any longer. With Shang-Chi under Turian control now, it felt like a huge win in pushing back humanity. However, they now suffered a problem. Thinking they had wiped out the worst of humanity's forces, they were completely unaware that humanity's second fleet was on its way to fight back for Shang-Chi, catching them completely off guard. Like the Turians had done to humanity returned the favour and starved them of their resources, taking out their trade link completely. Eventually, the Turians had to give up the planet they had just captured, as, like with the humans who inhabited it, they were now starving and had no resources to keep humanity off their back. Retreating from Shang-Chi, both the Turians and humanity started preparing for full-scale interplanetary war, which immediately drew the attention of the rest of the galaxy. The Citadel Council immediately stepped in, inviting both the Turians and the new race of humanity to negotiate a peace treaty and end the war before it got worse. Humanity now realized there were more alien species out within the universe and were able to learn more about their enemy, seeing them now not as the Protheans, but the Turians. Peace was then made between two races. However, both were pretty reluctant as there was still a lot to be settled between them, especially when it came to the ownership of Shang-Chi. Humanity would also go on to be seen in a really negative light by quite a lot of the races within the galaxy, being labelled as the aggressors. The feeling was
that's kind of dumb. That's kind of dumb. I understand that, you might want to come in and, okay, you guys just started opening up gates and all this other kind of stuff, but you shot first without even saying hello. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say to you at that point. I don't know what you want me to say. At that point, you have committed the first part of the FAFO scale, and the only thing that happens after the FA is the FO.
Mutual on humanity's side, however, and because of this first encounter with the Turians, it led to a lot of xenophobia amongst the Alliance public, with soldiers such as Ashley Williams despising a lot of the alien races she came into contact with. This opinion on the alien races also led the Alliance to split into separate groups that prided themselves with extreme pro-human views, such as the Terra Firma and later Cerberus. The Turians, however, were not let off lightly and had to pay heavily for their harsh response to this new species being unaware of the relay. Attacking them was an act of war, and they had no right in destroying all those ships when a peaceful resolve could have been made. After peace had been made, it took a lot of time for humanity and the Turians to make up and see eye to eye. However, as time progressed, more trade opportunities became apparent, and the two once warring species became trade partners. On top of that, technological opportunities arose, which allowed the species to work together and put their brains to work. This was seen through the construction of the SSV Normandy, for example. However, despite the war being long over, there are still strong opinions going around about humanity as well as the other races. The Batarian race, for example, whilst not being part of the Citadel, absolutely despises humanity for its growth throughout the system and still actively attacks any human vessel they come across. Within the veteran ranks as well, soldiers who once fought within the First Contact War still hold harsh opinions on the race they faced, with Ahern hating any Turian he faces. But also, within the Citadel Council itself, a spectre known as Saren, a proud soldier who was believed to have fought in the war against humanity, absolutely despises them and would do anything to be rid of this oppressive species.
Like, what do you want from me, dude?
And that is what happened during the relatively short conflict known as the First Contact War. Whilst it was a short one, it still had long-lasting effects on how the whole Mass Effect universe is shaped, and because of it triggered everything that happened within Mass Effect 1. I hope you enjoyed this video and would like to see more. The Mass Effect universe is so beautifully written, it's hard not to immerse yourself into the small details at times. If you did like this video, please do hit that like button, leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already for more.
I don't understand the viewpoint that the Turians have for being pissed off at the humans. Yes, maybe you can be upset because they're spreading out too fast, but you never even said anything. We don't even know who you are, and you come in, your first outreach is a weapon. I don't like if you come in. And believe me, I understand the Turians' point in this for being, you know, not exactly friendly. But when you come in openly shooting as your first contact, why on earth would you ever be surprised that somebody shoots back? What? Like, are you kidding me right now? That's just... There's got to be more of this that I am not seeing. There's got to be more to this that I am simply not seeing. Warpugs, let me know in the description down below, in the comments down below, if there's something else other than this that I just missed or wasn't mentioned here, so I can get a little bit better understanding of why the Turians would think that this was an acceptable first contact. Guys, I'm gonna head out from here. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this with me. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, join as a member of Patreon for early access, and I will catch you guys next time. Oh, pick yourself up a shirt too. Britco is off and running. Just why?